أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. لا يحب الله الجهر بالسوء من القول إلا من ظلم، وكان الله سميعا عليما. إن تبدوا خيرا أو تخفوه أو تعفوا عن سوء فإن الله كان عفوا قديرا. إن الذين يكفرون بالله ورسله ويريدون أن يفرقوا بين الله ورسله ويقولون نؤمن ببعض ونكفر ببعض ويريدون أن يتخذوا بين ذلك سبيلا، أولئك هم الكافرون حقا وأعتدنا للكافرين عذابا مهينا. والذين آمنوا بالله ولم يفرقوا بين أحد منهم أولئك سوف يؤتيهم أجورهم وكان الله. يسألك أهل الكتاب أن تنزل عليهم كتابا من السماء، فقد سألوا موسى أكبر من ذلك فقالوا أرنا الله جهرة فأخذتهم الصاعقة بظلمهم ثم اتخذوا العجل من بعد ما جاءتهم البينات فعفونا عن ذلك وآتينا موسى سلطانا مبينا. ورفعنا فوقهم الطور بميثاقهم وقلنا لهم ادخلوا الباب سجدا وقلنا لهم في السبت وأخذنا منهم ميثاقا غليظا. فبما نقضهم ميثاقهم وكفرهم بآيات الله وقتلهم الأنبياء بغير حق وقولهم قلوبنا غلف بل طبع الله عليها بكفرهم فلا قليلا. وبكفرهم وقولهم على مريم بهتانا عظيما وقولهم إنا قتلنا المسيح عيسى رسول الله وما قتلوه وما صلبوه ولكن شبه لهم وإن الذين اختلفوا فيه لفي شك منه ما لهم به من علم إلا اتباع الظن وما قتلوه يقينا بل رفعه الله إليه وكان الله حكيما. وإن من أهل الكتاب إلا ليؤمنن به قبل موته ويوم القيامة يكون عليهم شهيدا. فبظلم من الذين هادوا حرمنا عليهم طيبات أحلت لهم وبصدهم عن سبيل الله كثيرا وأخذهم الربا وقد نهوا عنه وأكلهم أموال الناس بالباطل وأعتدنا للكافرين منهم عذابا أليما. لكن الراسخون في العلم منهم والمؤمنون يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك والمقيمين الصلاة والمؤتون الزكاة والمؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر أولئك فيهم أجرا عظيما إنا أوحينا إليك كما أوحينا إلى نوح والنبيين
Inshallah, it's going to be a very beautiful discussion today. All right, as I speak to you now, our guest is
إسحاق ويعقوب والأسباط وعيسى وأيوب ويونس وهارون وسليمان وآتينا داود زبورا.
All right.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Are you okay?
Brother Qasim.
Yes, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing great. How about
long
you?
Time.
It's really been a Alhamdulillah, I can see nur on your face, man.
It's not nur, it's a light. Are we on just now? Are we starting just now? We're on?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. I think.
Okay, so are we going live now?
All right. Yes, we are currently live on Facebook, and we are currently actually live on two big Facebook platforms, inshallah.
Okay, awesome.
And at the moment, we are about 10 people on joining via Zoom, inshallah. Okay. So without much ado, I would like to introduce our guest for today, and the person of Qasim Rafiq. This man is a honorable man. I mean, to tell you something interesting about him, this man has actually been in Ghana. He has actually worked and did a whole lot of projects in Ghana before, but we are looking forward to his probably second coming back in Ghana, inshallah. Which probably might, inshallah, we'll try to just do a whole lot of things together, inshallah, in the second coming. Born in Wales and brought up in Scotland, UK, Qasim now resides in the USA. His academic background is in nutrition and psychology. He's also certified in NLP, life coaching, and CBT. He was also trained by the Qalam Institute based in Seattle, USA, which is the world's leading research institute on relationship. Qasim has had training from some of our era's great figures in personal development, including Sheikh Muhammad Al-Sharif, Tony Robbins, Simon Sinek, and Kerwin Ray and Brendan Bouchard. Qasim is an author and has published 7 life lessons on the myths of marriage. Currently, he is working on his 2nd edition, inshallah. Now, this is something brief that you need to know about Qasim Rafiq, my brother, my friend. We've had some lessons together, some experiences together back in South Africa. And inshallah, we are looking forward for more adventure together with you. I'm sure by the end of his presentation, you'll get to know exactly who this person is. When it comes to relationship issues, when it comes to marital issues, when it comes to self-care, spiritual care, self-love, appreciating oneself and everything, this man right here is a guru. I mean, that is the perfect word I would actually use for now. And inshallah, I'll allow him now to hand over the mic for him to actually proceed with his presentation. Inshallah, after that, any questions, contribution, you can put it on the, you can put your comment under the comment section. I'll relay to him. And if you are joining us via Zoom, you can also share via text message, inshallah, and then he can actually answer your questions. All right, Bismillah.
Okay, Bismillah. Thank you so much for that, Saifullah. I'm not a guru. Okay, so we've had the pleasure of meeting in mashallah, in different places, alhamdulillah. So let's just start this and jump in. And so Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. So today's obviously discussion is regarding spiritual care. And obviously for all of us folks now, we're in the last 10 days of Ramadan. And so a lot of us are obviously going to be going into 5th gear. And obviously trying to capture the night of power, which inshallah may Allah grant us all the ability to be blessed with capturing the night of Qadr. But what I would like to introduce and what I would like the fellow listeners to do is to be able to start taking notes on a prescription, a spiritual prescription that could help you as the days, the weeks and the months go past. Okay, Saif, sorry about that. There was a message that popped up on the screen saying that I had to undo this action here. So what I would like is I want to introduce a spiritual prescription that can inshallah allow us to benefit moving forward after Ramadan. Obviously, we're all going to be on a high, as we said, but let's be brutally honest, when Ramadan comes to an end, when the Eid celebrations kick in, it's only a matter of days for some of us where we start to sort of like feel that dip in our iman and our faith. Obviously, an entire month of Quran and fasting and sadaqah, and then all of a sudden it just comes to a halt. And within a number of days and weeks, some folks just fall back into their normal sort of like routines before Ramadan. And so what I want to give you is I would like to give this spiritual prescription that can help keep you grounded throughout the year. And so what that is the way I sort of like term it is that this spiritual prescription is a lost science. It's basically this the people of the past, like for instance, if we start talking about the actual root of it, so from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, the Tabi'een, and then if you look at the giants of our Ummah, these titans, these huge mountains that we had, like Imam Abu Hanifa, we had Imam Ahmed, we had Imam Malik, Imam Shafi. If we look at people like Sufyan al-Thawri, and all these great giants of the past, if you study their lives, you realize that they all did something that the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, taught them, and that was that they stuck very closely to doing the morning and evening adhkar. And I mean, you'll find throughout history that these great giants would do this constantly, day in and day out. And even to modern times, you'll find that our ulama, our teachers, our scholars, and their students are doing this. But for the rest, for the common folk, for the awam, it's something that's been lost. And this is something that I try my best to sort of like explain to a lot of my clients, a lot of times I'm doing interviews and podcasts. When it comes to spiritual self-care, it's extremely important for us to try to revive this lost science of introducing the morning and evening adhkar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask everyone just to basically get a notepad and pen, or a tablet, or use your phone, but something that you can start taking notes on, because we're going to go quite deep, and there's a few things I would like obviously your listeners and viewers to be taking note on. So Bismillah, here we go. So in the top of the page, if you can just write spiritual prescription and then put part 1. Okay, so with that, what I would like you guys to do is, after you've done that, I would like all of you, inshallah, to download a couple of apps that are going to be absolutely fundamental for you folks to have. And one of them apps is called My Dua, MYDUAA, and the other one is called Wa Iyyaka Nasta'in. Don't worry about these two apps just now. Brother Saif is going to post the links. I've sent him the links. He's going to put it onto his Facebook page and other social media pages, so that by the time the session is finished, you can just go straight to the links and just click on it. Both Android and iPhone users, both sets of links have been sent, so you can download it on your phone. But once you've got this app, basically what it is let's just talk about My Dua here for a second. My Dua is an app which is basically formulated from the classic. I'm sure you've seen these for the last maybe 20, 25 years, just kicking about. They're called Fortress of a Muslim, Husn al-Muslim. They used to obviously be in this sort of like wee book format, but now obviously in the last, I think 6, 7, 8 years, they produced an app form, which is amazing, alhamdulillah. So look, once you've got it downloaded and when you start opening up the app, what's going to happen is that you're going to be presented with a lot of categories. And so they'll be broken into categories like morning and evening afkar, protection du'as, in times of fear and anxiety, in times of sadness, and if something good happens, how to congratulate. And there's broken into all these categories. And the good thing about this is there's a category for literally everything in your life. From the moment you're born to the day you pass away, and everything in between. There's a category within there where you can select authentic du'as from the Quran and the Sunnah. And one of the two reasons I actually recommend these two apps is because over the years, I've come across so much hocus pocus out there that it's very difficult to navigate what's authentic now and what's just quite frankly nonsense. I mean, I'll give you an example of something so bizarre that I came across once. There was a dua book that when I opened and I started sort of studying it and going through it, I realized some of the things were just so out there. It was nothing grounded. There was nothing authentic about it. There was no references. And I'll give you an example of how crazy it went. They were saying, say this phrase 20,000 times, which in itself is a huge feat. So 20,000 times, say this phrase. And once you've finished saying this specific phrase, make sure you have a pot of rice there. And once you have that pot of rice, open that pot of rice, and then blow in it. Oh, sorry, that's just my daughter. She's just woke up. So basically, let me just. Oh, it's okay. Her mom's come. She must have just woke up and she was looking for me, and I'm in here. So, bismillah. So there was this pot of rice. They said, okay, you have a pot of rice after saying this 20,000 times. There will be this pot of rice. Open it, write Allah with a stick in the rice, and then cover it, and then go around it 7 times, and then make a specific dua. So, for instance, if it's for marriage, once you lift that, if Allah is still written in the rice, then you get married within that year. If it's not, then you won't be. Innovated stuff like that. That's completely. It's just there's no basis to it, and a lot of people, believe it or not, come across these sort of dua books, and they think this is all authentic and it's what we should be reading and doing and practicing, and it's not. It's all just innovated stuff that's just hocus pocus. So this is the main 2 reasons I recommend these 2 dua books. It's because Wayyaka Nasta'in and My Dua, because everything is referenced. So with each dua, either from the hadith or from the Quran, they're all referenced, and you have everything there. And you can basically bank on these 2 for years to come, knowing that everything that I'm going to be reading out of this, everything I'm going to be reciting out of this, it's authentic. So look, getting back to it. So once you've got that, you open up the categories. They have all these, like I said, all these categories, morning and evening du'as, etc., etc. What I want the viewers to do is I want you now to concentrate on 2 parts. You can write this down. So part 1, spiritual prescription, and we're going to start taking some notes here. So part 1 of this is that after you've downloaded apps, I want you to concentrate first of all on the morning and evening section on the app, and then the protection section. So there's morning and evening du'as and then protection du'as. Now, when you kick off and you click on that in your app, it's going to further open up to 25 authentic du'as on morning and evening supplication. So I want you now to sit back and just relax, take your time and start going through these du'as one by one. And the amazing thing about the function of these apps now is that any dua that you read that really touches your heart, and you say to yourself, do you know something? I really need this in my life just now. I need this dua specifically in my life. What I would like you to do is I would like you to basically go to the top right-hand corner and press star. Once you've pressed star, it'll basically move that dua that you've highlighted. It'll take a copy of it and move it to the beginning, to the index of the app, where there's a little starred section called My Favorites. I just call it my treasure chest. So by the time you've gone through all 25 morning and evening, for example, here, and you've highlighted a few that really touch your heart, and you highlighted them, they'll be moved to your My Favorites. Then I want you to go on to protection du'as, and then just carry on going through the rest of the app. This investment of time might take you about an hour and a half. But once I get on, you'll realize that this 1.5 hours of time that you've invested in going through these apps, just skimming through them, finding ones that really touch your heart, highlighting them, this is going to be something that you're going to be banking on for literally the rest of your life. And I know that sounds kind of a little bit sort of like dramatic, but seriously, I'm not being dramatic here. This is exactly what was told to me like about 20 years ago by a sheikh. He said to me when he sat me down, he said, when you start off with the athkar, when you're going through some specific stuff, just make sure that you know that you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life. And so with that, what I would like you to do is I would like you to start basically highlighting the ones that you want. It's being moved over to your treasure chest. And then what I would like you to do is I would like you now to sit back, and now you've got an entire collection for yourself. You've invested some time, you've gone through the entire app. Now this entire collection that you have picked according to your life, according to whatever that situation is in your life, whether it's you're just looking for general du'as throughout the day, or whether you're looking because you have health issues or financial issues, you can't get married, whatever it is that you've selected, okay, you've banked them all now. And so the next step is that I would like you now, if you can write this down, to be able to basically wake up after Fajr, after you pray Fajr, to be able to sit there, grab your phone, click on the app, and then click on your little wee My Favorite section or the treasure chest. And then bang, there you go. What you've selected pops up. And I want you to sit there after Fajr, and I want you basically to just go through each of these du'as. And so once you've gone through all of these du'as in the morning, I would like you to do the same in the evening after Asr, before Maghrib. Okay, so these are the two time slots that I would like you to concentrate on. So it's after Fajr and before Maghrib. So after Asr, yeah. So once you've done that and you start sort of like getting into this regimen of being able to sort of like have these authentic du'as, and you're starting to sort of like keep up in this routine of your morning and evening azkar, there's going to be a couple of challenges that you're going to face. And remember, just now, Ramadan is here. We're all in a spiritual high. We're going to be doing stuff that we don't normally do. I mean, Allahumma barik, some people are finishing the Quran, do you understand? Like 3-4 times inside this month. People are standing all nights in Salah and Tahajjud, and other people are giving away. Like all of this is happening because obviously, as we know as believers, shaitan has literally been locked up, and there's a mercy that's enveloped the ummah, the planet, in fact, that allows us to be able to carry out these astonishing feats within these 30 days. I mean, fasting for 30 days constant is in itself a feat. Do you understand? It's especially if you come from some of these countries where you're fasting for 18, 19, 20, 22 hours, some of them. So look, at the end of the day, there's a lot of barakah in this month. But what's going to happen is when you start doing these morning and evening azkar, after Ramadan, these are the two challenges that you're going to be hit with. And these are all tricks of shaitan and his army. And the deception goes like this. You start this off and you'll be thinking, okay, wow, like I'm on a roll here. I've been doing this morning and evening. And mashallah, I'm starting to get there. It's been week 1 or week 2. But what eventually is going to happen is like there's 2 things that you have to be very careful about. One of them is this, that when you're initially highlighting all these du'as, you're going to be reading some athkar that are going to literally be touching your heart in such a way that you're going to be like, I'm going to highlight this dua. I need this in my life just now. Oh, wow, I've just had this blessing, so I'm going to use this to show shukr and gratitude to Allah. Oh, no, I'm going through a hardship in my relationship just now, so I'm going to use this dua. Or I'm finding it difficult to find a good career or to be able to sort of like get good halal rizq. To provide for myself and my family. So I'm going to use this dua to be able to like jump into these milestones, to be able to ask Allah to give me this and that. What's going to end up happening is that you're going to end up highlighting. Remember I said in the beginning, like you invest about 1.5 hours to 2 hours in just going through everything, highlighting exactly what you want. What ends up happening is that some people get overzealous, over passionate, and they end up highlighting so many of the morning athkar and the evening athkar, protection du'as, and obviously with the rest of the categories through the app, that they sit there after Fajr and they're literally sitting there after Fajr with their app open or their book, if they're highlighting their book, and they're sitting there for 1.5 hours, 2 hours sometimes. And the reality now is that in this modern day and age with our lifestyle, you end up burning yourself out. And this is where this is the first sort of like trick and deception of shaitan, is because once you start this is a lost science. This is something so noble that's actually going to be transformational in your life. Like literally, once you start this morning and evening athkar, and I say this without any exaggeration, it's transformational. The amount of things that start to happen in your life, the amount of barakah that envelops you, the protection that you have, it's next level. Things that have always been difficult in your life start to ease. Doors that have been closed start to open. Why? Because you're constantly now protecting yourself by introducing these morning and evening athkar. And who's not going to like that? Obviously, shaitan. He's going to attack you left, right, and center now because he doesn't want you to be doing this. So what's going to end up happening is that you've spent an hour highlighting literally everything in there. Now, after Fajr, you're sitting there for 1.5 hours, 2 hours, trying to sort of like recite, go through them, make all these du'as. Within 5 days, you're wiped out. You're like, this is not sustainable. I can't do this anymore. And then you drop it. That's it. I mean, it's not rocket science. You stop doing it, and you don't even go back to them because your brain recognizes, and this is obviously if you study psychology, if you study elements like procrastination and apathy and stuff, like procrastination is a defense mechanism in your brain to be able to, why? Because you're about to do something that's kind of like a struggle, or it can be difficult. And so like your brain tries to protect you from doing, because your brain is there designed in a way to protect you from things. So what ends up happening is a procrastination kicks in and you're like, I can't go near that because I can't invest an hour, 2 hours in the morning doing this because of work and family and this and that. So you stop it and you let it go. And this is why I got advised many years ago by the Sheikh, which is, this is a lifelong journey. And this journey of life back to Allah is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so this journey in dunya towards slowly daraja, step by step back to Allah, by the time Allah Azza wa Jalla takes our soul, He commands the angel to take our soul, whatever that length of period is, if you're sprinting like over passionate, over zealous, and you're like doing 2 hours of athkar in the morning, within 5 days, 6 days, maybe a week and a half, you're wiped out. It's just not sustainable. If you go in cold turkey, you need to build it up. And I was advised many years ago to start off with 10 to 15 minutes in the morning after Fajr and 10 to 15 minutes before Maghrib. And then as the weeks and the months and the years went on, for me personally, as things happened in my life, in times of goodness and in times of happiness, I was like wanted to thank Allah. So I was looking for something authentic. Okay, how can I show shukr to Allah? So look for something in the dua book or the app for nowadays. Find something, highlight it, and add it to my collection. In times of sadness, in times of whether that's a loss of a loved one, or if it's health issues, or if it's financial issues, or whatever, times of stress and anxiety, whatever they may be, you start going through then as the months and you just slowly start adding to your 15, 20 minutes. So after all these years now, for me personally, my personal regiment now is I've gone from 10 to 15 minutes in the morning, all them years ago, to now being 45 to 50 minutes in the morning, 45 to 50 minutes in the evening. And that's what I said, I've built myself up. And the analogy, what I like to give the example of is, if you want to run a marathon, and I have some friends that do free diving, and what they do is that free diving and it's very similar in the sense, like you have to, like in a marathon, you have to build up stamina, you have to build up endurance, and you have to do so much training. You can't just go and run 20K, jump into a marathon and start running 20K cold turkey without any training. It'll wipe you out. And you can do the same, like free diving as well. You can't just expect to be in one breath, go down so many meters into the ocean in one breath and come back up. You'll be wiped out within a number of seconds, do you understand? Once you get to some level of depth and the pressure starts on you, I mean, you'll be wiped out. So that's the same with this journey of life back to Allah when it comes to keeping constant with this lost science. Obviously, the 5 prayers, I'm talking about the 5 prayers are non-negotiable. You and I know this. What these morning and evening adhkar do is, and this is the way I describe it to a lot of my clients and others when I'm obviously talking about this sort of like discussion point of spirituality and increasing adhkar, is like you cannot negotiate with the prayers. That's it. Do you understand? You have to pray. That's what you're going to be accountable for. It's what Allah has asked us for. We can't escape that. And like the Prophet, peace upon him, said, one whose prayers are solid and like they're proper, he will be, I guess you can say, he'll be in a state of goodness and correctness on the day of judgment. Like he would have succeeded. And the one whose prayers aren't sort of like fixed and set in this world, then his affairs on the day of judgment aren't going to be safe and secure and fixed. In fact, they're going to be completely dismantled and deconstructed because he's not followed these basic principles. So look, our 5 prayers are non-negotiable. What these are, these morning and evening adhkar, is that these are basically, the best way to explain it is, these are the highest end. Like if you're looking for, like as an example of looking after your physical health, if you're training, you're going to the gym 3-4 times a week, you're eating well, what's going to happen to you physically? You're going to be at your optimal. This morning and evening is basically high-end multivitamins and green juice. We're not talking about cheap and nasty multivitamins that cost 99 cents or 99 pence for a packet of 500, and you're popping them down thinking that these are good quality multivitamins. I'm talking about a multivitamin pack that's got 30 in it that's going to cost you $40. Do you understand? £40. Why? Because they're the highest grade of multivitamin. Then you have stuff like your magnesium, then you have stuff like coenzyme Q10, and you have a selection of really high quality multivitamins and supplements. You're taking them daily to be able to sort of like help your well-being, both internal for your internal sort of like health, which eventually affects your external. And then on top of that, you're taking beetroot juice, green juices, you're taking kale when you're mixing a nick or ginger in there, and you're making up some really high quality green juice. That's when you're taking that constantly, high-end quality supplements, green juice, beetroot juice, and then stuff like your training. What's going to happen? Like I said, you'll be at your optimal. This is what the morning and evening adhkar is. It's just high-end spiritual. For the spiritual sense, you're feeding your soul, you're feeding your spiritual heart, you're feeding your ruh, your soul. And what you're doing is that you're making your soul, like you're illuminating your soul by staying constant with the morning and evening adhkar. And you're protecting yourself and you're asking Allah Azza wa Jal for aid and counsel throughout the day, and you're keeping your tongue moist with adhkar. And I'm going to come to in a minute. So that's basically in a nutshell what these morning and evening adhkar is. And that's part 1, that you've downloaded the apps, you've spent some time, highlighted each one, you've highlighted important ones, Then you have them saved in your little wee sort of like my favorite section. Then what you're doing now is after Fajr and before Maghrib, after Asr, you're basically bringing them out for 15, 20 minutes. You're going through them each day. And then as the weeks and the months and years progress, you add to that depending on your need in your life. And depending on if you feel, okay, I've got to a certain level, this is now constant, something that I'm doing constant, I'm going to add to it and add to it and add to it until it becomes a solid regimen. And for some people, I know they can sit there for an hour and a half in the morning now, and after doing it for 5, 10 years, and it's like nothing for them. It's almost like this is their breakfast. They cannot move without doing this. And so this is part 1 of this 3-part spiritual prescription. So the other trick that just before I move on to part 2 that I want you to be very careful about, which is another deception of shaitan, is to stop you from doing this lost science and keep this sort of like element ingrained in your life, is like you'll start. Okay, so one problem is being overzealous and putting too much in the beginning and you burn yourself out. A second technique that you have to be very careful about is that you have to be careful about, it's called self-flagellation. It's when you beat yourself up because you're doing it. Let's just say you're doing it for a week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, and you've got into a good routine, but you miss some days. Let's just say you miss a couple of days here, you miss some days there because of whatever the reason is. Then what ends up happening is that you start feeling so guilty about it because you've tasted the sweetness of doing your morning and evening adhkar. Then something has happened and you've missed a few days, then you've missed another few days, and then you start to stagnate, and then you're thinking, oh my God, like I'm such a bad person. Like, how can I do this? It's not even much. And I'm losing this sort of like gift of being able to do it. You end up whipping yourself and you're feeling so guilty that you actually come to a point that you're saying, you know something, forget this. Like, it's just not sustainable. I can't do this. And that usually happens because from what I've heard from other folks in the past is, let's just say you've missed Fajr. And so you miss Fajr and you then wake up, and obviously priority now is to catch up with that missed prayer. So you wake up, get ready, pray your missed prayer. Then by that time, obviously you're getting ready for work, or you're having to drop the kids off, or you're having to do some errands and go to the grocery store, or you have to go to the gym, whatever it is, your morning is kicked in. And so what I say is like, just be careful, because what ends up happening is, like I said, you end up just saying, okay, I can't do it, and you miss the morning. And then the evening time comes, let's say you're driving back, it's Maghrib time, you're driving back from work, you can't do it. Again, you start feeling guilty, like I should be doing this, but I can't do it because I've got so many other tasks I have to do. You end up burning yourself out. That you have to be very careful, but it's another technique, another reason that people sort of like just let this go. And remember what I said, this has to be something you're doing for the rest of your life, inshallah, securing yourself and putting the barakah in this life and basically building up your akhirah. So what's the solution to this? It's very simple. Like I said, going back to what I said, this journey back to Allah is not it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So daraja, step by step. So how do we do that? The way I say it is there's a gold and platinum level. There's a gold and platinum level. And the way that works is like this. Gold, there is no bronze and no silver, by the way. For the morning and evening adhkar, there's just platinum and gold. Gold meaning you do it once in a day. Let's just say you've got a hectic day. You've just say for whatever reason, you've missed the morning one. If you can't squeeze 15, 20 minutes in after breakfast or some point in the morning because you have to rush off, leave it. Don't stress about it. Don't allow it to overburden you. Just let it go. But just say to yourself, inshallah, I'll make up, I'll do it at least for the evening. And vice versa. If you've done the morning, but you can't do the evening for whatever the reason is, just let it go. As long as you've done it once, that's a gold level, that you've done it once in a day. The platinum level, but is obviously that you've done it twice in a day and you've secured the morning and the evening. You understand? It's like building a fortress round about you. You've done it. So when you have that, and you can keep it easy on yourself and don't sort of like beat yourself up, then it becomes easier, because the days that you do miss in the morning, you say, Tayyib, look, I'm just going to catch up at some point in the evening. And again, like I said, in the evening, if you can't do it before Maghrib, then relax, just sit back at some point after Maghrib, before Isha, after Isha, when you have spare 10, 15 minutes, just grab a cup of tea, get some biscuits and sit down whenever you have that moment and do it. And you've fulfilled at least the gold to the platinum level. So that's how you get over that sort of like burnout. Just be careful of that. So there are two things that you have to be careful about: overburdening yourself and sitting there for an hour, 2 hours in the morning. You'll burn yourself out. It's not sustainable. And this other one where you feel like you're on a roll, but then you start missing some days and you just say, you know something, I feel so bad. Like, I'm just going to let it go because I feel so crappy about not being able to do it. Just keep it constant day by day. It's a day by day thing that I need you guys to be doing. So anyway, that's part one done. So Bismillah, let's get on to part two. So you can now write down on your notepad part two of the spiritual prescription and write sleep. Okay, so if you can write sleep. So now that you guys have written sleep, I want you guys to introduce this into your life before you sleep. Okay, and remember everything that I'm mentioning here, by the way, like now, like moving into part two, then part three, these are all, inshallah, you can check them up. There's references to everything. Even in the dua apps, there's references to all of these things that I'm mentioning. So here it goes. So so sleep time. Before you fall asleep, I want you to sit on the side of your bed or on top of your bed, wherever. Just sit there, relax, and just cup your hands like this, like the way the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, used to pray. He never used to pray like this. He never used to pray like this. He used to basically cup his hands together with his palms facing up. And then sitting there, he would recite Surah Ikhlas, Falaq and Nas. So that's the last three surahs of the Quran. People call them the three goals. They're also called the Muawwidhain. Like there's basically the three last verses of the Quran, surahs of the Quran, okay? So you've recited now, Qul huwallahu ahad, recited Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq, and now you've recited Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. Once you've finished, you blow. Okay, so it's like a dry spittle in your hand. So you're like, okay, it's a dry spittle. And then what I want to do is exactly what the Prophet, peace upon him, used to do. You start from his head, his face, as much of his body. He'll wipe over it, as much of his body as he could. He'll do that set. And this is the nuance. This is the part that I need you guys to make sure you're doing right. He'll do that thrice, 3 times. So he'll do that set. Okay, wipe down once. After reciting Surah Ikhlas, Falaq and Nas, he'll wipe down once. Then you'll restart and do it again. So again, cupping your hands, Surah Ikhlas, Falaq and Nas, blow, wipe. And then he'll do it thrice, a third time. And then he'll do it, wipe over himself. Now, quickly, why are we doing this? Because we all know that Surah Ikhlas, Falaq and Nas, especially Falaq and Nas, we know that how heavyweight these are as surahs. And we know that there's like these surahs, when it comes to protection, when it comes to preserving and protecting yourself in both the physical element and the unseen realm, it's second to none. Because what are these surahs protecting you from? They're protecting you from ayn, hasad, and from witchcraft, sorcery. So from sihr. So ayn, hasad, and sihr. So basically ayn, the evil eye, jealousy, obviously hasad, and then some people call it black magic, some people call it sorcery, some people call it witchcraft. It's all the same. It's basically just the dark arts. So you're being protected from all these 3 elements, and never, ever, ever, as a believer, underestimate or make mockery of the unseen realm. And this, I mean, obviously, we as Muslims don't delve too much into it. We don't overthink it. We don't become paranoid. We're supposed to be firm as believers. We're strong in our faith, and then moving forward, and we understand that there's an unseen element. We understand that there's angels, that there's jinn, that there's devils, there's shaitan. We understand this concept, yeah. But never underestimate the power of someone's ayn, evil eye against you, and never underestimate someone's jealousy and what that can lead to. I've had people that I've been dealing with, which honestly, majority of the times, I'm obviously dealing with for like serious relationship issues, and I have obviously some amazing times with dealing with the premarital stage where it's all, mashallah, lots of roses and lots of sort of like fluff and happiness, and everyone's really looking forward to getting married, which is amazing. Okay, Allahumma barak, it's such a blessed thing. So premarital stuff is amazing, but I'm also dealing with a lot of the hardcore issues when it comes to problems in marriage, and obviously couples having a lot of issues, whether it's mental health issues, whether it's issues with abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, narcissistic behavior, when it comes to infidelity cases. There's all these obviously cases then that become very serious. But once in a while, over the years, I've come across cases where people, their families have been torn apart because of envy, jealousy, and unfortunately witchcraft. And I've had cases where literally it'll drain the color from you. Like I've listened, and not only listened, I've actually seen firsthand cases where literally it takes you aback. Like literally your color drains, because you realize when people have envy or jealousy, that they can get to an extent that can actually become, it can be such extreme jealousy that family members, friends, people that in your workplace, that they can get so jealous that they can eventually go to the level of when they'll go to a sahar, go to someone that practices witchcraft and do something on you or your family or your children, or to literally obliterate you, to cause a lot of mayhem in your life. And we know as believers that going to anything like that, going to a sorcerer, going to someone that practices witchcraft, getting a spell done or something to try to cause havoc in someone's life is completely haram. And not only is a magician, like, unless he makes tawbah, like never allowed to enter paradise because of his dark arts, but the person that goes to him and seeks his aid and gets dwabbles and this sort of stuff, they're not allowed to either to even smell the scent of paradise. That's how forbidden it is within our religion. But unfortunately, in this day and age, a lot of people twist the game. They twist and manipulate, and they'll pretend that it's not an issue, that they call it white magic. It's there to get over the black magic, and it's all utter nonsense. It's completely forbidden. And just know that that's the authentic Orthodox stance. Any of this stuff is forbidden. And even if you like, you just stay away from it. So I've dealt with cases that's unbelievable. I've dealt with cases where family members are jealous of, for instance, I had a case just recently where there was a couple on the phone, literally in tears, because the mother was so she had a very strong narcissistic sort of like personality characteristic. And so when her son eventually got married, she ended up couldn't handle the fact that the son was happy literally and getting on with his life. And she wanted full control on her son. So what she ended up doing was after the weeks and the months of jealousy and envy that basically this daughter-in-law has taken away my son from me, which actually was not the case. Once you listen to it, always just her overthinking. What she ends up doing is going to someone. Believe it or not, she went to someone. She traveled to, I wouldn't mention the country, but she traveled to this country, got this tonic made and gave it to her son in front of his wife. And basically they were both, husband and wife, were telling me from the moment that he took this tonic, like he will wake up every single morning at a specific time in the morning in a fetal position, crying like a baby, calling out for his mum. Because she wanted control, she made some sort of magic to be able to control her son in that way. And she basically now regretting it, because she's like, the son, it's like they're having all these issues now. And this is what I'm saying. Some of the times it's crazy what people do out of jealousy and out of stuff. This is why it's so important to do the morning and evening protection to keep you safe from all this. And this is another reason that we do this protection at night, because it keeps you safe from ayn, hasad, and witchcraft. So it keeps you safe from these elements. And this is why the Prophet, peace upon him, used to do it. It's called ruqya. It's Quranic protection. And I'll tell you something which floored me when I heard it about this, was that the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, he would do this, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all the time. And the times that he couldn't do it, for whatever that noble reason was, whether that noble reason was because he was injured, or he was not feeling well, or he was too fatigued, whatever that noble reason was that he couldn't do it that night, he would ask his wife to do it on him. So when I first read that and I heard about it, it floored me, because I was like, look at this. Subhanallah, that the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, would not let this go. Like, he will then get his wife to do it on him. And so this is what I recommend to everyone. Like, if you're doing it, do this every night. And if you can't do it for whatever reason, get your spouse to do it, husband or wife, just to do it for that. If you can't just do it that night. So khair, inshallah. So that's that. Get into a habit of doing this and protecting yourself. The next thing, so if you can write part B of part 2 of this sleep, is recite Ayatul Kursi before you sleep. So write that down, recite Ayatul Kursi. Why do we recite Ayatul Kursi before sleep? Because as we know as believers that the angel of Rahmah is sent down, not an angel, like a protection, a guardian angel, sorry. Yeah, you can say an angel of Rahmah, I guess. So a guardian angel is sent down to protect you for the believer who recites Ayatul Kursi, that by the time he's finished, there's a guardian angel sent down. But I once got asked, and I also then listened to some of the responses from the ulama regarding this, what's the guardian angel protecting you from? Like when you recite Ayatul Kursi, there's an angel sent down, what are you being protected from? Then the reality is, like, we know as Muslims, when we sleep, we don't know, but we do know that there's elements that there's angels that come in and that they can spread salam and pray and send rahman into your home. They can bless your home and they can leave. But we also know that there's darker elements out there, call it whatever you want, shaitan, jinn, that can come in. And especially if you've not got a wholesome home, like there's a lot of stuff that you get up to that's not good, and you don't pray, and there's like these darker elements can come in and leave. So basically, if a believer is reciting Ayatul Kursi, you've got protection throughout the night, basically till the morning, which is a barakah. And just as a side note here, we also know, because in this day and age, a lot of sort of like Muslims who don't know about this, they'll plaster their homes with huge pictures of themselves in their graduation gear, or with their husband and wife with all the kids, or wedding photos, or whatever. They'll have huge portraits all over the house. But I mean, we obviously know that, and if you study into this, that it's not actually befitting for a Muslim to have these big images and posters in the home, because it actually doesn't allow the angels of Rahmah to come in, because we shouldn't really have objects or pictures of living beings like that are on the wall, whether it's animal or human being. And so it's best, if you're going to put stuff up, like have stuff of scenery, of nature, of stuff like that, absolutely fine. But stay away from like big images of yourself or your family portraits, because at the end of the day, like, we're just looking for as much blessings and rahmah and protection for our homes as possible, especially in this day and age where everything seems to be getting lopsided when it comes to morals, principles, ethics. Do you understand? Things are all just getting upside down. And as we say in Arabic, alamat al-sa'a, it's just a sign of the end of times. Do you understand? Like some of the stuff that's happening in this day and age. So we want to do whatever we can to preserve ourselves and our families. So Ayatul Kursi. So the class Falak and Nas 3 times, blow over yourself. Then Ayatul Kursi. The last thing that I want you to do in this part of sleep is to write down if you can recite the last 2 verses of Surah Baqarah. That's verse 285. Write this down: 285 and 286. So verse 285 and 286 of Surah Baqarah. The Prophet, why that? Because the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, simply said that anyone that reads 2 verses, these 2 last verses, Surah Baqarah, they're enough. And the way he said it was like, they're enough. Like, they're so heavyweight. Like, and that's it. Really, what else can I say? When the Prophet, peace upon him, said they're enough, then they're enough. Like, they are heavyweight. So read this, get this into your sort of like little sleep routine. There are other routines before sleep that you can do that out there, and that's for you to do more research on. But these ones I've mentioned just now are also very strong, they're powerful, and they're referenced and authentic as well, inshallah. But there are other ones as well out there if you want to add, and you feel like you can add more to your little sleep routine beforehand. And just in another side note there, this adults that are starting this late, like in their 20s and 30s, or hearing it for the first time, whatever age group you are, once you start doing this protection stuff on ruqya, like on yourself, like before you sleep, and doing what the Prophet, peace upon him, used to do, and Ayatul Kursi, I'm telling you, it's next level. Like, you feel this weight off and if you're doing your morning and evening adhkar, you're praying 5 times a day, and then you do this before sleep, there's this like weight taken off your chest. It's like, I can't explain it, Yani. It's so ajeeb. There's this heaviness taken off of you, and there's a lot of sukoon and sakina in your life. It brings a lot of barakah and wholesomeness, and it envelops you with protection. And adults I've seen that have started this, like weeks, months on, they come back to me, and like they come back to my wife's a public speaker, and And she talks about this as she's teaching classes throughout the world, and they all say the same thing. Like, you get emails back saying like, wow, like, we can't let this go now because we just feel so different. We feel so different. And it protects your marriages, it protects your home, it protects your mental health, it protects your physical health. It's like there's so many ailments to it. Do you understand? I'm talking purely from a spiritual perspective here. As a lot of barakah, it's very heavyweight. So look, and children that I've seen that have had this done from a young age, I've seen a lot of children have had this formula, like their mums and dads have been reciting Surah Ikhlas, Falaq and Nas, protecting them 3 times, reading Ayatul Kursi. As they've grown up, I've seen over the last like 20, 25 years, I've seen people, families have been doing this on their children for a long time. And you see that as they're getting older, the children are very different going through high school, going into college or university. They're very different from the awam, from other children. They grow up very grounded. They have a very strong moral compass. And it's like the best way I describe it is they can decipher between right and wrong with great clarity. And that's the best way. And it's almost like they're protected. It's like they have a lot of barakah and protection about them. And that's just, obviously this is from my own pocket. This is just something I've observed. But there's something amazing about having children that have been protected from a young age doing this procedure. So, and again, for adults, exact same thing. And they start to witness this, like a lot of barakah, and they feel a lot more sukoon and sakina in their lives. Okay, so that's part 2. Done and dusted. So part 1 is done. Part two is done for sleep. Now the last part, and we'll end on this. And inshallah, I know I'm slightly over, but inshallah we'll try to race through this. If you can write on your notepad, part 3, the spiritual prescription. What I would like you to introduce into your life, and you can kickstart now. Obviously, you can kickstart all of this during Ramadan, so you can start getting into habit of doing this. Like I said, it's for the rest of your life. This is what you want to do. You want to make sure, like, by the time Allah takes you back to Him, no matter how old you are and where you are, that you've accumulated mountains, basically mountains of good deeds, and you're like for the next life, for the akhirah. And something, just again as a side note before I go on to part 3, is, can you imagine, and I ask all fathers and mothers and people that are going to be implementing this in their own lives, remember, do it yourself first. Self-preservation, sort yourselves out first. Once you got that, all parents out there, or if you have children, and if you don't have children, if you're, whatever the situation is, and you're learning this spiritual prescription, sit there in your house, like a father, sit there, a mother, sit there, bring your family down close together, teach them, teach your children, and then teach your children to teach their children. Because look, it's amazing, because if you can teach this amazing concept of what we've been taught by Allah and His Messenger, and what the Sahaba used to do, the Tabi'een, the Tabi'een, all our great ulama of the past, they used to do it, and we're reviving this, and we're doing it, and we're teaching our children, what's going to happen on the Day of Judgment? Can you imagine, like, if you taught your children, and you've taught your children to teach their children, and on and on the Day of Judgment, your entire, like, all that sadaqah, it's like a continuous sadaqah jariyah, and it's all coming back to you, because you sat down, and you implemented this on yourself, on your family, on your children, and you taught them to become self-sustainable. So your children will get to an age that they're self-sustained, that they're doing it themselves. It becomes part and parcel of their life. So anyway, that was just a side point. So the last part of this spiritual prescription, part 3, is if you can introduce 2 things to keep your tongue moist with throughout the day. Number 1 is saying astaghfirullah, okay? Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. So you just write that down. Don't ask me to spell it out in transliteration or something. Just write it the way it sounds, astaghfirullah. Basically, you're asking Allah for forgiveness. And the second thing is, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There's no might and there's no power except with Allah. Write these 2 things down, astaghfirullah and la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Okay, why? And I'll end off in this. We as believers have been told in the hadith, in the authentic hadith, that a believer that is constantly asking Allah for forgiveness. So you're saying, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. I'm telling you, if you're constantly asking Allah for forgiveness, that Allah Jalla wala will open doors for you in ways that you can't even fathom. You can't imagine how these things are happening for you in your life if you're constantly asking Allah for forgiveness. Hurdles in your life, you'll be able to get over. Doors that are closed will open. Things that are tight, like a vice that are constricting you in your life, will start to sort of like dissolve and move away. Barakah, gifts will come your way in ways that you can't even imagine, just by constantly asking Allah for forgiveness. And the Prophet, peace upon him, would ask Allah Jalla wala for forgiveness up to 100 times a day. And that could be obviously more or less, but like that's what we know, that he was in the habit of asking Allah for forgiveness. So I would recommend doing 100 with your morning and your evening. So just saying 100 times in the morning, 100 times in the evening with your morning and evening adhkar. And literally I've timed it, I'm telling you. By the way, just to tell you, see this entire adhkar, like the entire part 1, part 2, 3, I've timed myself. If you do it at a certain pace, you can finish this entire thing within, like the sleep part, you can do within 4 to 6 minutes, just part 2 at night. Between 4 to 6 minutes, depending on your pace, you can finish it. The morning and evening adhkar, like I said, is up to at your discretion. 15 minutes, 20 minutes, it's up to you. But this last part, saying astaghfirullah 100 times takes you what, 55 seconds, 60 seconds max? It's nothing. And then la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Why that? Why am I asking you guys to say there's no might and there's no power except with Allah? Because we've been told in the hadith that anyone that says this in abundance, that basically it takes away 99 ailments from the believer, the least of which is stress and anxiety. Can you imagine? See, when I heard this, I was like I get blown away by these hadith. I'm like, what? Like the believer, if a believer is saying la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah in abundance, like 99 ailments are taken away from him, the least of which is stress and anxiety. So the first thing I'm thinking is, okay, so what are the other 97 things that you're being protected from that you can't even imagine, you can't fathom in the physical realm and in the ghaib, in the unseen realm? What are you being protected from that you can't even see or know or understand? Incidents, accidents, calamities, viruses, illnesses, loss of wealth, loss of health, the things that are meant to be like a fitna that's coming your way, or an incident that's meant to, and you're being protected from all these things. It's like you've got it's like the way I describe it, it's like you're unsheathing your sword basically in the unseen realm, and you're basically just a samurai. You're just there, you're doing these morning and evening adhkar. And I think it's Ibn Jawzi. I can't remember if it was Ibn Jawzi or I can't remember the scholar, may Allah have mercy on him, who said this, but basically, or it might be Ibn Qayyim. I think it was Ibn Qayyim, actually. I think he said that the more adhkar that you do, may Allah have mercy on him, he said that the more adhkar you do, it's like armor. And the more that you do the adhkar with quality, the thicker and the more sort of like resistant your armor becomes in the spiritual, in the unseen world, in the ghaib. So it's almost like the way I look at it. You're doing all these adhkar, you're doing your morning and evening adhkar, you're doing your sleep ruqya, you're keeping your tongue moist with saying astaghfirullah, la hawla wa la quwwata. But obviously we know there's others that you can say subhanallah wa bihamdi. You can obviously, we know after prayer subhanallah, alhamdulillah, Allahu akbar. We know these things. But I'm just saying, add these two into your day, astaghfirullah, la hawla wa la quwwata billah, and these are the great amount of benefits that happen. And I'm telling you, whatever, and this is something from, as a relationship specialist, I teach this to my clients, because obviously I'm teaching them from not only an academic, Western psychological academic sort of like perspective of relationship science and understanding conflict management, but I'm obviously teaching them from a perspective from an Islamic spiritual faith-based perspective. And I always get them to start this. And I'm telling you, the effects on couples that are doing this and protecting themselves is next level, because you need to guard yourself from the physical problems, the physical realities that we're dealing with ayn and hasad and jealousy and all these other strains and stresses and anxieties of the day. But we also have to protect ourselves from the unseen element. And you wouldn't believe the amount of sukoon and barakah that it envelops you with, this wholesomeness that bestows upon you when you're doing this as a family or as a couple. It's next level. But anyway, inshallah, just want all of you guys to become your own sort of samurai inshallah, and just make sure that you're constantly doing this morning and evening adhkar, get into this regimen of doing the 3-part spiritual prescription. I pray that inshallah Allah Jalla wala blesses you all with an accepted Ramadan. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts all of you, blesses you all with an accepted Laylatul Qadr. May Allah Jalla wala accept all your du'as, and please keep me and my family in your du'as during this blessed last remaining days of Ramadan. Please keep us in your du'as. Jazakallahu khairan. Saif, I'll give it back to you, bro.
Subhanallah. Barakallah fiqh, brother, for that insight. I mean, this is a very, very interesting and very insightful presentation by you. I'm sure there's a whole lot of people wanting to ask questions in relation to that. Now, if an overview of all this presentation is all about spiritual self-care, and the reference, for those of you who are watching live on Facebook, I posted the links to the Husn al-Muslim, the app. You can, just click on it. If you don't have it on your phone, you can just click on it, and then it can actually be a guide. Now, this is something that we take for granted as Muslims, making dua for protection. And we currently, subhanAllah, live in a world where, we are surrounded by jinns and, so many spirits and evil spirits and all that, trying to break up ourselves and personally, our relationship with our creator, our relationship with ourselves, and our relationships with our loved ones, and then family, family and friends, basically. So if we stick to some of this, and especially, I love the part where you explained into detail what a man or a Muslim is supposed to do before he or she goes to sleep. It's something like the moment you just enter the room, just lie on your bed, like that, you are just gone. But hey, subhanallah, I mean, a whole lot of things actually happening around us, and then if we stick to these beautiful du'as, these beautiful supplications, inshallah, we are going to be protected. He has said a lot. I'm sure you have some questions, submissions, and contribution, reflections that you want to actually come up with. You are free to do so. Before we go into that, I think there is a question up from Layla who says, can I ask a question concerning the timing of the askar in the evening? Yeah. So the evening askar are being said after Asr, not after Maghrib prayer. I mean, she just wants to know if it is actually said after Maghrib or after Asr.
Okay, it's basically you're wanting to do it before Maghrib. Okay, so you're wanting to do the evening adhkar before Maghrib time. So obviously, at some point between Asr and Maghrib, at some point you want to just start. Obviously, or if you want to do it slightly closer to Maghrib, you can. But like I said, this is the ideal situation after Fajr and before Maghrib. This is the ideal, like the platinum level, like I've mentioned. But look, like I said, in this day and age, with people's lifestyles, with routines, with errands, family errands, cooking, working, training, obviously work was the responsibilities. Whatever you can do. So if it's after Maghrib, do it after Maghrib. Sit down the moment you get 15, 20 minutes in the evening, even if it's after Isha, before Isha, just before you go to sleep, do it. Just get into a habit. And this is the thing, is that it took me a long time. Like I said, I've been doing this for a long time. And the thing is, like, eventually you rewire your system. You rewire your it's like you're basically, it's called neuroplasticity. When you're doing something in a habitual form, like again and again and again, it becomes part of you. And you've wired yourself to be able to say, okay, I'm going to do this at a certain time, and I'm going to do this at a certain time. But obviously, if things do happen in your life, for whatever that is, whatever the situation is, and you can't do it at that specific time, just don't stress about it. That's the biggest thing. A lot of people in this day and age, especially the younger generations, like the newer sort of generation, they get very flustered. There's a lot of issues with anxiety and stress. It's almost like they how can I say it? They put too much pressure on themselves. And what you need to do is you need to just be cool, calm, and collective. When it comes to doing these morning and evening adhkar, relax. Just make sure that you're doing it no matter what time you there. Like I said, there's an exact time that if you can do it, thumbs up, fantastic. But if you can't, just relax. But just at least do it once in a day, hit that gold standard. And if you can't do it, if you can't do it twice, then just hit it gold. And if you can do it twice a day, fantastic. Do it. Hit that platinum level. But no matter what, at least try to get into the habit of doing it once. And I'm going to say this as a side note: even if you miss one day or 2 days and you can't get it, don't stop. Just basically re-kick yourself into getting back into it. Just don't let this practice go. And I'm going to say this: just don't let it go, because this is something that's going to preserve and protect your sanity, your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health. It's all rounder. It's a win-win situation in this life and in the next life. And obviously we use these as a means, but obviously we, being Muslims, being people who are thabit, established with knowledge, with understanding, we know that there's a time and a place. If there's issues happening with you, let's say there's some physical problems, you can't just rely on Azkar and the Quran and think, that's it, I'm not going to go to a doctor, I'm not going to go to the hospital because I'm just going to rely on this. No, you take the means. So you rely on Allah, but simultaneously you go and take the means. So you go to the doctor, if you have to go to a psychotherapist, a therapist, or you need help in this element. We look at things holistically, do you understand? Don't just think it's that or this, is black and white. It's not like that. It doesn't work like that. Allah Jalla wa'ala has gifted us with the means of being able to look at the people of knowledge and look at people and for their skill set. And so if you have, for instance, a mental health problem, or you're feeling depressed and it gets to a point that you can't bear with it, then obviously you're doing your morning and evening Azkar, you're doing whatever, but at the same time, you're going and taking the means, you're going speaking to a professional, you're speaking to a doctor. If you have to get medication, you're going down that route. If you can do it through another way, through nutrition and sorting out your diet or your sleep patterns, then you can sort them. But what I'm saying is, we look at everything. I kind of went off in a few other, but I thought I'll hit off, kill two birds with one stone, as they say. Sorry, Saif, go on.
All right. There's another one that's from Faiza, and she says, okay, this is a contribution. Jazakallah khair, Brother Qasim. Just a comment. I think a recommendation could be for everyone to create an alarm on your phone for Azkars to establish the habits, inshallah, which I think is a very good idea too.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic idea. I mean, obviously for me, the way I look at it is my Fajr wake-up call alarm is my alarm for my Azkar. And for the evening, obviously, as soon as, before Maghrib kicks in, I know, okay, Maghrib time is coming, so I just jump into that way. But I think having it set in your calendar, having an alarm put on, I think these are amazing. If you can do it, do it. Whatever works for you, do it, inshallah. Any other questions, Saif?
We have another from Muhammad. How do you balance the constant worry that no matter your act of worship, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not pleased or happy with you? Like everything in life that you face, worry, sadness, etc., seems to be an indication that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not happy with you. Is this normal?
Okay, look, I'll give you a simple sort of guide. Obviously, this is going to take a lecture in itself, but just very simple. If you're doing things that are halal, that are legit in your life, and you're doing things to the best of your ability, and you're going and you're working and you're working hard towards making yourself a better person day by day, if you're having these negative thoughts or these incidents or things happening in your life that you feel, wow, things are just getting harder, or is Allah not happy with me? There's a simple test. If that incident or that hardship or that calamity takes you further away from Allah, then that's a punishment. If that thing brings you closer to Allah, then that's a barakah. It's a gift in a form of a hardship that's making you and building you and carving you to become much more resilient. Everyone in life is going to go through their own crucible. Whatever that crucible is, the way I explain it to a lot of my colleagues and my clients and family and friends is that we as Muslims, we're all raw gold. That's what we are. We're all raw gold. And sometimes a Muslim who has said La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, who believes, who has faith, but he or she might be making poor decisions in life, falling into mistakes. But if you can get into a habit of making tawbah and coming back to Allah, every time you fall, you get back up, you dust yourself down, and you carry on in life. It's like you're trekking through life. You falter, you make a mistake, you get back up, dust yourself down, make astaghfar, make tawbah, and you just carry on. Allah loves that. Allah Jalla wa'ala loves that act of Bani Adam, of the children of Adam. When they fall, they slip, they make tawbah, they get back up and they carry on with tawakkul and hope in Allah. And so remember, if that incident or calamity or series of events is making you distant and you're stopping to pray, you can't be bothered, you're questioning faith, you're like, forget this, they understand who needs prayer. This is all stories from the old, and we need to be more modern and hip and stuff. They understand? If it's taking you away from Allah and making you bitter and resentful and angry, then it's a punishment. But if it's something that's bringing you closer, and at night you're crying out to Allah, in sujood, you're asking Allah for ease, and you're asking Allah to give you the ease and the forbearance to be able to go through this trial. Like I said, you're like raw gold. And so what does that mean? Do you know how gold works? And you guys being in Ghana, mashallah, in the Shanti region, you can just kick the dirt and gold comes out from under the ground. That's what I've heard about the Shanti region. But look, raw gold, if you throw it into a furnace, what does it do? It comes out the other end much more purer. It becomes purified. Why? It burns off all impurities. That's what hardships are for a believer. Hardships for a believer, you're raw gold, you're getting put into a furnace or your crucible in life to come out purer and much more resilient and to raise your rank. I pray that answers the question, inshallah.
Already said barakallahu fiqh. Now the last one from Widad. She wants to know if there is a limit to the saying of the la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. If it is 100 times or more or less, she just want to know.
Keep your tongue moist with dhikr as much as wherever you can. I'll give you an example. I sometimes sit there and I travel a lot. So if I'm traveling, if I'm flying, or if I'm in a train, or if I'm in a boat, or I'm in a coach, wherever, if I'm just sitting there, I either use my fingers, use a tasbih, or use a digital counter, which I've downloaded on my app. And I just sit there and I'm just like, astaghfirullah, 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 Allah hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Whenever I get a chance, I'll give you another example. If I'm sitting there watching a documentary on Netflix or something, I'll sit there, I've got my phone, and I'm just saying, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, la hawla wa la quwwata billah, la hawla wa la quwwata billah. And I've done my morning and evening afkar. I've done my 100 in the morning, 100, but I've got time. I'm just sitting there. There's something, I'm watching a documentary and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, so I'm focused, like trying to just keep my tongue moist in all aspects of the day whenever I get time. And then winds up, like, I'll give you an example. Once I was just saying, astaghfirullah. I finished this documentary and I looked down and I was like, wow, I've done it like 2,300 times, like without even realizing, but not being completely oblivious of what you're saying. You don't just want to be like saying it and like lip service, but you're sort of like, you're there. And it's just like, you're trying to make it a habit in your life. Basically, whatever you can do. Don't go to an extreme where you're just sitting there neglecting everything. And you're just like, I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to become some sort of Muslim monk, which is a contradiction in terms, but you know what I mean? Like just sit there and like, just do my dhikr all day and all evening, and everything in my household or my working is going to pot. I mean, just don't go to extremes. We're a people of the middle path. Do as much as you can and bismillah. Just go with the flow. Be like water. Just go with the flow. Next slide.
All right. Yes. Okay. So that's it.
That's it. Excellent.
we have Galaxy A10 who wants to also give his submissions on audio. So if you're ready. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So my question is basically, I'm Sadaf Sheikh from India. And
Okay,
yeah, so my question is basically related to trauma and everything. Okay, I had already spoken to you about this on Instagram. So I've been through an abusive friendship, and I still have, even though I'm in a safe environment in the past 1 year, and I have healed to a very great extent, but I still have a lot of suppressed trauma inside of me. Okay, and that trauma has affected my faith. Okay, so there was a time when I started thinking that, like you said right now, that if there's any difficulty and that takes you away from Allah Ta'ala, so that can be a punishment, right? And if there's any difficulty that actually brings you closer to Allah Ta'ala, then that can be a rahmah. So there was a time when I was in that abusive friendship, and I started feeling like I could not feel my iman anymore. Okay, like I started feeling like Allah Ta'ala has taken my iman away from me. Okay, so I started feeling like Allah Ta'ala is punishing me or something. So yeah, even though now I have clarity of thought, but then too I still have a lot of suppressed trauma inside of me. And because I'm in a position where it's very difficult for me to consult a therapist or a counselor, because in India, there are not many people, not many counselors who understand what I had spoken to you about specifically, that is narcissistic relationships, which I believe I have gone through. The foreign one I cannot really afford. So can you suggest anything that is there in the Quran that can help me for healing? Because in the end, Quran is a healing, right?
Okay, so, look, there's a Bismillah. Thank you very much for your question. Also, look, there's a couple of things that I recommend for you, sister. Okay, first of all, I know that there's a lot of people doing a lot of amazing work in India when it comes to therapy, whether that's from a coaching perspective and as licensed therapists. There are people out there in India, in the Muslim community, that are actually really good, highly qualified therapists, whether that's psychologists, psychotherapists, they're psychiatrists. There's people out there from a faith-based perspective who are experts in their field. And I do know that there are groups and institutions set up in India, from what I've heard, that depending on the situation and financial situation of that individual or couple, that they can actually help. So my first thing for you would be do a little bit of research, inshallah, and try to find, like, through these organizations, through mental health specialists within India, they have bodies and organizations. If you can sort of like try to do a little bit of research and just reach out to them and put your trust in Allah, ask Allah for an opening, and inshallah you will find someone in your locality that will be able to speak your language, that understands the cultural sort of like baggage, a cultural background of what's happening, also both a religious point of view, obviously being a Muslim counselor or a therapist, and basically get in touch with them. And you just have to put a little bit of effort into just checking your locality. A lot of people just give up and think there's nothing here in India, or this. I've heard this a lot. I even had people saying to me recently in Pakistan and in places like in Kenya and Congo and West Africa, even places like Nigeria and Sierra Leone and Ghana. I've heard people say to me similar things. But then when I give them the same advice, they spend a bit of time, 40 minutes, half an hour, they actually realize that there's a wealth of people out there in their localities or in their countries that are actually specializing in stuff. And there are people set up to help. There are organizations there to help within your countries. And so, inshallah, that's number one. The other thing that I would say to you is, that alhamdulillah, just by you being here, just by you listening to these sort of events, just by you accepting and acknowledging that I'm in a much better place now, I've got a lot more clarity. Allahumma barik lakum, you are already, mashallah, you're on that road of recovery and healing and understanding yourself. You've obviously gone through something obviously there's a lot that you've obviously gone through. And that's obviously led to a lot of obviously grief, trauma, post-traumatic stress, whatever it is that you've gone through has caused a lot of grief and trauma. But now, mashallah, you're on that road of, number one, acknowledging, accepting, recognizing, and now moving forward and seeking help, asking people questions. That's all great. This is much better than being numb and being completely like void of feeling, void of thought. But you're empowering yourself by going out, listening, talking, questioning. This is all fantastic. Now, regarding the Islamic part and what can I take from the Quran, I just spent the last 55, 60 minutes giving you the spiritual prescription. Introduce this into your life because the Adhkar, the morning and evening Adhkar, the way I describe it is like, it's like a life preserver. The storms are going to happen. This is life. Do you understand? Life is up and down. The storms of life, when they come in, whether that's a financial storm, a relationship storm, a health storm, passing away of a loved one, whatever them storms that come across your way in life are, the good thing about these morning and Iftar is if you've got them regimented in your life, you will not drown in your despair. You will not drown in these storms of life. You will still be afloat. A lot of people drown in their storms in life, but people that are close to Allah Jalla wala, they're grounded in their morning and evening Adhkar, in their dhikr, in their salah, and they know they can network and reach out to people in their communities, family, friends, and because they get that ability through the Adhkar, they're empowered. These openings are coming from Allah. Then they won't drown, inshallah, in their despair. But like I said, if it gets to a point where you feel that you need to really get now next level treatment and you feel like you need to now get therapy or you need to get medication, whatever that is, then I'm telling you, inshallah, stick to your morning and evening Adhkar, implement that, regiment that into your life, and you'll find a lot of sukoon and sakina. And then also simultaneously look out, reach out, network with people within your country, within your city, within these fields. And trust me, you'll find someone. I hear this again and again, especially from people from like South Asia, like from Bangladesh, from Pakistan, from India, and places in Africa, and even other places out with, where they think like these facilities aren't there, but they are. They might not be as in abundance as they are in some places in London or Manchester, Birmingham, or here in like New York or California. So they might not be like that much, but there are people set up, there are organizations, there are networks set up in your country. You just have to do the research, inshallah. But other than that, you can private message if you need some more information, and inshallah we can take it forward from there. Bismillah. I hope that helps, inshallah. Saif, thank you so much, inshallah, for all of that. And inshallah, I'll end on the prophetic dua. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakallahu khairan. Ramadan Mubarak to everyone. Inshallah, I pray that Allah blesses you all with an accepted Ramadan and accepted Laylatul Qadr, inshallah.
Ameen.
Thank you so much, Saif.
Thank you so much, and Jazakallah khairan. It's been a very beautiful session. We wish we'll just go on and on and on again, but inshallah, we'll definitely make time again. But my question was straight question from, when are you coming to Ghana?
You know how much I love Ghana. I actually stayed in Ghana for a little bit of time back in 2005, and so I love Ghana. I miss my plantains, my fufu,
your fufu and all that. All right, we'll be expecting your second comment, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah.
Now, before you leave, just one or two words, like a word of advice to the youth.
Yes, and for the youth,
final word.
Just final bit of advice for the youth is, I guess, the most fundamental thing I can say for the youth of West Africa or wherever you are listening to this is stay firm with gaining authentic knowledge when it comes to Islam. Stay safe, stay grounded in authentic knowledge, and keep your hearts attached, inshallah. I know just now it's difficult with COVID and stuff, but once you get the ability, the chance, keep your hearts attached to the masjid and keep your hearts attached to all the youth community events that are happening in your locality. If you can spend your time in service helping these organizations, was it going and actually being part of these organizations, taking part, listening, and what ends up happening is that you mold yourself. You start to, it's like a piece of clay, and you're starting to sort of like mold yourself. So by the time you get older, you've become this amazing, grounded individual where you have a lot of deep concepts that have been grounded into you, that are healthy, that are faith-based, that give you a very high level of not only a moral standing, but an ethical understanding. And also it gives you the confidence, and it teaches you the ability to be able to network, to be able to communicate effectively, helps you to be able to organize events in your locality, to be able to help call people back to Allah and His Messenger. It gives you this added confidence and boost if you grow up in that environment of service and taking part in a lot of whatever Islamic activities you can take part in, whether it's youth groups or whether it's organizing qiyams or whether it's organizing halaqas, whatever it is, do it. And one more thing, just because obviously things have changed so much from back in the 80s and 90s when I was growing up, because of the advancement of social networking, social media, and on the online world, I would say don't lose touch of the blessings and be able to sit at the feet of ulama, to be able to sit and actually be taught by a person of knowledge. You can do so much online, and I'm like very traditional that way. I mean, you can sit online, and the online world is amazing. You can get taught so much now. Everything is at a click of a finger nowadays. You can be taught from there's amazing organizations. There's mashallah, there's Al-Maghrib Institute, there's Yaqeen Institute, there's Qalam, mashallah, there's this, oh my God, there's a plethora, there's just so many organizations out there that are global, and you can be taught so much. But the reality is that there's knowledge that you can gain online and implement, and you can become like a sensei when it comes to gaining knowledge. But that grounding of being able to understand adab, of understanding morals and how and just the mannerisms of how to be, and these life lessons that you can get from people of knowledge are in your locality, and that you can sit and write, take notes from what they're saying, experience what they've had to experience. That's next level. You can't get that from online. So try your best, especially in this modern time when everything is online, to do whatever you can online, but at some portion of your time, be able to ground yourself and sit down in the masjid or in a halaqah and actually just sit and be in the presence of fellow like-minded brothers and sisters, and have a sheikh or a sheikha that can teach you your deen. Especially the amount of, I mean, what you will gain from that, it's next level, inshallah. And yeah, that's my advice for the youth.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Brother Qasim. If you want to know more and read more from Brother Qasim, you can actually visit him. His IG account is, I think, Qasim Rafiq, Qasim _ Rafiq, right?
Yes, Qasim _ Rafiq, then Scottish. Or you can jump on my website, yes, if you want to know. It's just my first name and my surname, QasimRafiq.com. Yeah. It's just my website, and all my social media is there. My, obviously, what I do is on there. My book that I published is on there. Everything is really on my website. But if you want to obviously touch base, I'm on social media, inshallah, so you can reach out. Allah. But thank you so much for this opportunity. I have a very special place in my heart for Ghana, I worked in Ghana for a little bit. I did some I have a very close friend. His name is Musa in Accra, and we've been friends for oh my God, since 2004, 2005, and we're still friends to this day. And he's like a brother to me, and mashallah. Yeah, so I have a very strong connection with Ghana and the people of West Africa, alhamdulillah. Jazakallahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Barakallahu fi. Ameen. All right.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.